That's the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 152. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Let me introduce you to the co-hosts. We have Chris Carruthers from the Remote Support Tech team. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing amazing after a great Halloween night. How about you, Jeff?
I'm doing good. I actually was able to go out for Halloween last night, and it was raining and cold, but the kids had fun.
There you go.
Also joining us today, we have Marvin Bee from maninthevan.net. How you doing, Marvin?
I am Halloween fantastic.
Oh, great to have you. Also joining us from the great West Coast, where they get no cold weather, well, I guess Marvin doesn't either, is Brad Torrey from TTCS Computer Services. How you doing, Brad?
Great. How you guys doing? Yeah, I think last time I was on the show a couple weeks ago, I had the AC running. Now I've got a fan running, so we've downgraded.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, it's great to be here.
Oh. All right, so let's go ahead and start. Marvin, let's start with you this week, and let's talk about what's going on in your business.
Let's see. Since last week, I finished my Office 365 migration.
Ooh, how'd that go?
It went good, really well. Actually, for Monday morning, the aftercare, I basically had one question: is can we now get mail to our phones? So I just sent them the links to set up their phones and haven't heard anything since.
Now, what did you use to do the migration?
Used a tool from a different website, BitTitan.
Okay.
And you can either go to bittitan.com or migrationwiz.com.
Are they the same product, or is that a different product?
It's the same product. It's the company is BitTitan,
Okay.
but MigrationWiz is actually their branding for that website. And I used that. The last product that I used was nice. It just didn't look all flashy and fancy, and I just thought, let me try something else. I was doing an Exchange server to Office 365 migration, and I was told that this tool worked very well, and it did.
Okay.
It was clean, it was fast, and basically everything came over. I did not have to monitor the process like I did with the last one, and maybe that was just because it just went so much faster and I could see the progress easier, whereas the other tool I did not see that progress. So that went well. I also had a Windows 10 nightmare.
Me too. Go ahead.
And, well, normally I wouldn't do a Windows 10 deal with any of my main regular customers in business unless I set it up and tested it myself. I had a nice lady that has been a customer for years. It's one of those people that I just, can't really say no to. I met her back in 1992, and I thought she was 60 or 70 back then. So she called me up and said she needed a new computer. Basically, she still looks like she's 60 or 70 and acts the exact same way. So I had to walk her through, running over to the store, getting a computer. I told her Windows 10 was fine. I'd back up her stuff, bring it over. And it seemed to work fine until we did our first reboot, and I got the lovely, Windows has detected an error. Let us fix it for you. Oh, can't fix it for you. Why don't you reset Windows?
What?
So I had never reset the Windows on Windows 10. I'm like, yeah, well, I'll let it go. It's not a big deal. It's a brand new computer. And I don't know if you saw my Google post last week where I had the image up that said Windows installation progress 0%. And
Yeah.
it sat at 0% for probably 20-25 minutes. And I was like, how can you be at 0%? For that
I saw
long?
I saw that screenshot that you sent out.
Yeah. So that took about 2 hours to do a reset, which basically is a reinstall where it keeps all the data and programs, but it still didn't work after that. So I ended up bringing the computer back, wiped it, reloaded it from scratch, and had fun. So what I thought was going to be a 1 hour setup and Fab's auto backup, transfer turned out to be 2 days of Microsoft glory.
Never any fun.
Yep.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yep.
That's the word we're going to use for this.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Chris, what's been going on in your shop?
We've been making some improvements over on our side. Had a couple of weird internet problems, but that seems to have been resolved now. And Carruthers Computers, our local business, we have launched a loyalty program for our customers, and we've actually seen a bit of increased traffic from that. So it'll be a great experiment over the next couple of months to see how much extra foot traffic we get from our loyalty program now that it's been launched.
Very good. Actually, we got an email about that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Virus removals and stuff still going on?
Like always. I mean, that never slows down. We've always got more viruses. Haven't really gotten any crypto-related viruses lately, which is great. Hopefully that'll continue because that's a conversation that I never enjoy having.
Very cool. And so just so you guys are aware, and I didn't even realize this till I'm like looking at my screen right now, but apparently I forgot to kick my son out of the office, and he's in here playing, so he's being quiet, so you'll probably see some gaming going on in the background. Maybe it'll draw some interest. Yeah, it's been a hectic couple days. Anyways, Brad, what's been going on in your business?
About kind of same as usual. Just keep in touch with my customers, going around and taking care of the little things, little setups, and always fun collections. Trying to keep everybody honest. And then on Wednesday, I'd say, well, I guess Tuesday night, Wednesday, very early morning, I discovered that an update to this a QNAP turbo NAS that we have in one of our offices, the update, it didn't break the virtualization station, but it broke the ability for the QNAP to display the settings for it, so we couldn't turn on this VM. And the VM runs the QuickBooks licensing for the office, so they have desktop QuickBooks on multiple computers, and you have to have something on the network running on Windows to manage the licenses, so they can have 3 people using it at a time or whatever. That was really the main function. It also hosted the data for QuickBooks on that virtual machine, and then we're using a scheduled backup to back it up off of the VM onto just the NAS storage, and then again from there to Amazon S3 backs up everything on the NAS. So anyway, this update broke the virtualization station, so that means QuickBooks wouldn't work. Then I double-checked the backups, and it looks like for whatever reason the automatic backup hadn't run in about 6 months.
Oh.
And despite all of my, constant, hey, you guys don't have monitored backups. We have stuff in place, so you're kind of okay in that sense, but I won't know if it stops working for some reason, kind of thing. And they're just like, yeah, well, we're not big enough to have a monthly blah blah blah. And so okay, well, then we're just gonna hope that it's always fine. And then, so it took 2 days to fix this. I was on the tech support with QNAP because it's just a configuration thing, and it's a Linux. They have their own version of Linux running on the QNAP, so you can SSH in, you can run commands, look at config files, all that stuff. They could not figure it out. They escalated it up, and QNAP support's fantastic, by the way. But in this sense, they couldn't figure it out in time. So after waiting for them for about 12 hours, they just backed up all the data off the NAS onto an external hard drive and wiped it out and set it up again. So now it's got me kind of rethinking if we're going to use that system anymore, because it is handy to have. Like, we couldn't really justify the expense of throwing an actual server in or another desktop when a NAS can take care of that lightweight little Windows application like that.
Sure.
But the images that it uses are not compatible with anything else. As far as like I could access and get to the virtual disk image of that PC. So technically I could pull it out and like throw it in VMware or VirtualBox, but the format wasn't compatible, and all the conversion tools that I could work would convert it to the new format, but it still wouldn't boot. So, so I was holding my breath for a while, because basically the only way I was going to get the up-to-date QuickBooks info off of there was to get that virtual machine back up and running on the QNAP, and I did, and they're all happy, and everybody, you know, good end of the story, but real scary 2 days. I barely got any sleep for 48 hours.
Right. No, yeah, when it comes to your accounting software, that makes people really nervous. And then when you're supporting it, even though it's not your problem because you offered the monitoring service, they don't want it. It is what it is, but you still feel somewhat responsible for getting that data back for them.
Right. And you know, we suggested doing it this way, and so, you know, we do have some stake in that chain of the failure, so we always want to do our best to make it work. Yeah, so especially since this is an attorney. Well, I'm scared to work.
I'm sorry, an attorney's too small to pay for a monthly service agreement.
Right, yes. He has like 7 paralegals working for him, and they're booked solid all the time.
Yeah, and
so, but he's got to eat, you know. He's got to feed his kids.
Marvin's familiar with that one.
Yeah,
he's got to put premium, you know, octane in his Porsche.
That's the best attorney line ever. I gotta eat.
Yep.
Wow. Very good. Well, I'll tell you, I had a similar Windows 10 issue. So actually, I'm on Windows 10 right now, on my production machine, which I wanted to hold off, but I couldn't. I was itching. I don't know why. I mean, I loved Windows 8.1. It was working fine. Everything worked. I could game on it. I could do these shows. I could edit my software. So, but I decided I've got an open weekend. Let me go ahead and try this. So Friday night I came home, upgraded my machine, because I was always told, and I've done it on 8 other machines, upgrade it first, let the upgrade take, make sure it's activated. Once you do that, then you can go back in, take your handy dandy USB 3.0 key, plug it in with the Windows 10 Pro on it, and run it, and it should activate. Well, let me go back up a little bit. So I switched out SSDs. I told everybody that I change my hard drives once a year. I do. I'm not kidding. So I changed my operating system hard drive and went from a 256 to a 512 Samsung 850 Pro. And I got it on a really good sale. So I put that in the system. I had cloned Windows 8.1 on it, and so I did the upgrade on there so I wouldn't have any activation problems. Well, when I went to do the fresh install with Windows 10, it said, I'm sorry, it's taking a little bit longer than normal, but be patient. We'll be right back with you, or something to that effect, where I was just like, okay. So everything went through fine and installed the operating system. The problem was it didn't activate. It's the only time it's happened to me. So what I did was I sat there and said, okay, I really can't have this system that's not activated because I need to get everything set up, and I would hate to set everything up and a week later still not be activated, and I said, I just can't go through with that. I was going to grab my Windows 8.1 disk that I had, throw it back in there. Actually, the hard drive. I could have went right back to where I was at. No big deal. So no harm, no foul. But I wanted to get this going. So I got it going, and I basically looked at it and I go, okay, I've got one more way that I can do this because I know this works also. What I did was I took my Windows 8.1 with my product key, I installed it onto this hard drive. After that, what I did was I went right to the Windows 10 upgrade, downloaded the Media Creation tool, and went in and did a install from the Media Creation tool. When I did that, what it asked me is, do you want to keep everything? Do you want to keep nothing? And I said keep nothing. Which, for those of you that don't know, that is basically a clean install because it wipes everything out and basically starts over. It just starts off inside of Windows 8.1. When it did that, came up, no problem, activated, boom, I'm ready to go. Now the hard part, starts, because now I've got to move my user profile onto the data drive because I still have way too much stuff in the SSD drive that I can't get over there. So I'm moving all that stuff over, and I'm trying to look at the way I get to my file systems and the things that I do with, Podnutz, with my business, all these things that I do. So I basically kind of redid the way that I have my digital files set up and set everything up so that I could get to them much quicker. In the process, I'm downloading drivers. I'm not a whole lot, but the other thing was dual authentication. Every time I go to log into something, I got to pull my phone out. What's the code for that? Oh yeah, okay. And I'll do the dual authentication on all my logins, and then I'll forget to click the little box that says remember this computer. So then I got to go back and do it again, and all these little things. Even before the show today, I start the Hangout. Everything's loaded up. I'm like, okay, everything's where it needs to be. Everything's working perfectly fine. I'm looking at my webcam, and I go, why am I so far away? And I go, oh, I need to download the Logitech web software for my camera so that I can actually use the control tools to bring me in a little closer. Not that you guys want to see me or anything, but I just don't like having the whole big wide space. So that's what I downloaded that. Well, of course, when I did that, I had to restart the computer, and I'm like going, oh, I hope I can get back into the Hangout again and it doesn't screw everything up. But apparently, everything's working the way it should. So I'm happy. I'm on Windows 10. My games work, all that stuff. But it was probably not solid, but probably about 27 hours worth of work over the last day and a half, day and 3/4, something like that. So that was so anyways, there's 3 different ways that you can do the Windows 10 upgrade. Just remember those, and hopefully that will help somebody out in the future. If you can't get it one way, you can definitely get it another way. We'll see down the road. Supposedly one of the new Windows updates that's coming up is you are going to be able to put your product key for the previous system, whether it be Windows 7 or Windows 8, in there, and it should authenticate and be fine. So we will see if that is actually going to be true. All right. I want to talk about real quick just a voicemail that we got about downloading the MP3s from the new website. And all I have to say, this person didn't leave any information to get back in touch with them. It was a voicemail, came through our system. So instead of playing the voicemail, they basically were asking for a way to download from the Podnutz website. And I would tell everybody that is coming soon. It's being worked on. So you will be able to download it, put it on your MP3 player of choice, and be able to take it with you on your walks or jogs or whatever it is you do while you're doing that. So just be patient. All that stuff is there's still stuff being added to the website as we speak. All right. Should we go into some emails?
Sure.
Yep.
All right. Here's one, and we'll see if anybody. I have my own things that I had said to this person, but we will see if anybody else has something else that they can look at. It says, Jeff, I wonder if you can help me with this stumper. I have a home network with a Windows Home Server 2011 and several client machines, Windows 8 and 7. All has been working well for years. Recently, I tried to add a Windows 7 laptop using the standard connector software. It finds my server, validates my password, then fails with a cannot connect to server, please try again message. I can see all the server files, can mount the drives, and can remote desktop in. When I do remote in, I get a certificate error which I can ignore. This certificate error was a clue though. When I first installed the server, I named it very creatively WHS 2011. I think I named mine the same. And this was the name on the certificate. At some point in time, it started identifying itself around the network as server. I believe this is a name mismatch is at the root of the problem. If you type host name on a server, it reports WHS 2011. But if you browse the network from any other computer, it shows up as server. Pinging either server or host name from any client yields the correct IP. The client PCs that are already set up still function normally. It's just the setup for a new computer that fails. I never noticed when the network name started appearing as server, which is a testament to how transparent the function of this server is. Now I'm like a parent whose well-behaved child unexpectedly throws a wild party while the parent isn't looking. Can you help me understand where the name server came from and how to change or add the appropriate server certificate? Thank you for your help and a fantastic podcast. Bob. Bob, thank you for the email and that interesting problem. And I will tell you right off the bat, this is why I started running these problems a couple years ago, and it's why I shut my Windows server down. So I just use external drives now for all my backups and all that kind of stuff. But I loved Windows Server back in the day, both the last iterations. So does anybody know, or has anybody dealt with that problem or seen that problem in the past, and maybe they can lead Bob in the right direction? Crickets. Nobody's used Windows Home Server, have you?
Nope.
Nor have I ever heard of a system just identifying itself as something else on the network with no warning.
Come on, it's Microsoft, of course.
Well, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I just haven't run into the problem.
I can't remember if I had that specific problem. One of the things that I told Bob was, I said, you know, the way you created a certificate for the Windows Home Server was by going to the Microsoft website and creating a certificate through them. I said you might try recreating the ticket, you know, the certificate again, but it may or may not work. There was just little things like my connector software stopped working in a lot of machines. So I said, you know what, whatever. I'm not going to be able to use this. It's causing me more pain than it's worth. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it and move it on. I don't know why it would name itself to something unless something happened on the network, some sort of IP structure change or some. I don't know.
Or maybe their router held on to something and it didn't quite work right, or.
And it's just
that wouldn't make any sense either.
Yeah, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe like a host file or an ARP table or somewhere, someone not on the server, but something on the network had identified it as server and then started reporting that out. And I haven't seen that kind of issue before though.
Okay.
And in Windows, if you search the official Microsoft documentation for host name and computer name are technically different things. But if you look through all of the Microsoft documentation, they basically just tell you change the computer name. That sets the host name.
Yeah.
They're linked and the one and the same.
Oh, okay.
So even though technically in like networking terminology, they're two different things, and I'm sure on like Linux or something you can have them be different. But in Windows, it's just the host name is the computer name.
Yeah.
You might try going around and doing like a DNS flush on all the systems, clearing out your ARP tables, rebooting everything, and seeing if it goes, and then maybe even trying to rename the server back to the name that you wanted it. And I mean, that's all just kind of shooting at the wall and seeing if it does anything. I don't know. It's a weird problem.
Sometimes shotgun troubleshooting is the only way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of anything else to do that, and yeah, I don't know.
Does anybody know? And I didn't get a chance to look this up. Is Server 2011 still supported? The Windows Home Server?
I'm pretty sure all the Windows Home Server has fallen off support, but I'll double check.
Yeah, I think they have too. So I'm not even sure if there's updates and stuff, which is not a huge issue. If it's working on your network, it works fine. But
someone in the chat said server updates. Yeah, maybe make sure the server's up to date. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah, that can't break anything.
No, as I've seen.
No, server updates never.
All right. Well, Bob, I hope that helps maybe lead you in a different direction that you weren't thinking about, and maybe that you can use it in the future.
Got your answer there. It's April 12th, 2016 is when Windows Home Server 2011 ends support.
So now's your time to get off Windows Home Server. I'm just saying. All right. Anyways, I hope that helps. All right, and this is from our good friend Paco LeBron. It says, "Hi, Jeff and gang. It has been a while since I wrote in, and I wanted to get your input on the topic of customer loyalty programs. There are many options out there allowing for tracking of loyalty programs, but is it really worth it for the computer repair industry? I see how it can be useful for services such as car wash places and restaurants, but can't see the value for us. This would imply many users to come in frequently, which for residential clients, I have seen them come back possibly once a year. I look forward to your input on the show. Thanks, Paco LeBron from Prodigy Text." Thank you, Paco. Appreciate the question. Very good question, actually. So, Chris, you said you started a loyalty program. What are you doing?
Yeah, so we are trialing a service called Vicinity, which in the U.S. it's the exact same company, but it's called 5 Stars. No idea why they're different names, but that's not the point. And they actually provide us with near-field card readers. They provide us with the loyalty cards themselves and the key fobs and the software and system to track everything. So right now what we're doing with it is we're giving out like a free pop if you get 100 points, discounts on virus removals, and if you get enough points for it, you can actually get a free year of the managed service plan, which I think is where a lot of people are starting to jump on it, where they want to get themselves to the point where they're getting that free service plan.
Nice.
So we just started off advertising it on Facebook and telling everybody, hey, we're doing this now. We're letting our customers know when they come in that, hey, you can sign up for this free thing. And so far, we've had a pretty big success rate on people picking up on the loyalty program itself. I mean, everybody wants to earn points, but I was thinking the same thing before I looked more into it, as what was said in that email, that a computer repair business didn't really make sense for me to have a loyalty program, because I don't expect to see somebody for 6 months to a year after I do something for them. But that doesn't always wind up being the case. Sometimes it's just that they either find somebody else for a different device, or they don't think to come in. So we've set up automatic messages to go out at certain intervals, and I'm not going to get into the details of everything that we did there. We can do that on a different show if people want specifics. Where it sends out, reply to this text message to get this coupon. Hey, we haven't seen you in a little while. Come on in for a free pop, and we'll do a free diagnostic on your system. Make sure everything's running well. And I think that it's going to increase traffic quite a bit more than it already has. So it's going to be a great opportunity for us to test this out over the next few months. And 6 months down the road, I'm hoping that we can show some pretty crazy numbers from it.
That sounds good. I was just thinking about a loyalty program that I signed up for at a local donut shop, and they basically, all I had to do was put in my phone number, and it would send me a text message every once in a while, give me like $4 off, which for this high-end donut place, it's like $18 for a dozen. So,
all right, fair enough.
You can make them any way you want. They got all kinds of different flavors. But anyways, the nice thing is, all you do when you go in to get that coupon, you just push in your phone number again when they're ringing you up, and boom, you're done. And so I thought that was a neat way to do it. And that's probably something that you could set up even without a kiosk of sorts, with all the software and things that are out there today with tablets and phones and laptops and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, we chose that we wanted to use something that can be used not just at our location. Like, not that the points are shared or anything like that. The points are for each individual shop. But the vicinity card, if somebody gets a card from us, they can use that same card to start collecting points at, there's a local game shop here in town. There's a place that does haircuts. There's a bunch of different shops. So they all wind up showing up on the website. And because they're showing up on the website, the Google Maps show where everybody is. It winds up giving you more of an online presence. And people are told that you exist when they sign up for this card anywhere else. So it winds up being marketing just as much as it is, loyalty, getting people to come back. Right.
No, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds like definitely a win-win for the businesses in the area. Awesome.
Well, assuming that it works, and that's the problem, is that I don't know if it's going to work for us as a computer repair shop. I don't know if this kind of, the type of clients that we're going for, and we're trying to push this on residential, are they even going to see any value in getting those points? Is this something that's going to keep them coming back, or am I just wasting my time? So I'll know in a couple months, but I'm pretty optimistic about it because so far it's we've had some positive feedback.
Okay, very good. Brad, how about you? Done anything with any loyalty programs for your customers?
Nothing official. I would be interested to hear how Chris's experiment turns out, because it sounds like it's got a built-in marketing piece to it as well. But we have mostly business relationships with our clients, so really we just try to always balance positive interactions with negative ones. So when something has been like this last thing where they were down, their QuickBooks was down for 2 days while we resolved this server issue, sometime next week I'll probably show up with out of the blue with some treats or something for everybody, and sort of go like, yeah, see, so like it balances out, and we keep that, positive relationship going with everybody. So really, it's just good customer service has been our loyalty program, so to speak. I've tried some referral things where I give people credits if they, refer somebody else, and no one's ever really taken advantage of that. They're always, I get referrals organically anyway, and nothing seems to get, better or worse if I do or do not have some kind of a referral or a loyalty program. But as we start to look at really wanting to expand our client base a little bit more, I think having something like that might be a good thing to look at.
So from my standpoint, what I'm looking at and what I'm thinking about is Chris is obviously he's got people. He's got people working for him.
Hey.
And so, I'm just saying. But realistically, as an independent tech, the first thing that I think about with the loyalty program sounds like a great idea, but it's something I have to manage and maintain, and it's that's what I look at. So.
Can I say something on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
It depends on the type of platform that you're using. Like looking at coffee shops, most coffee shops, they don't have an electronic system for it. They just, here's your card, and we're going to stamp the card when we give you a coffee, and when you get enough stamps, then you get a coffee, right?
That's true. That is a great way of doing it.
Right. So it's not like you don't have to put a lot of money into it. You don't need to have any kind of a system. I brought up the way that we're doing it because this is the way that we're doing it, because
sure.
it incorporated both the marketing and the loyalty program in one. So that's what we want to test. But even then, once you set something like this up, unless you want to make a change to how your loyalty program works, you don't really need to touch your dashboard at all. Like I go into my dashboard and I want to see how many people came into the store when I was gone, right? So I can see that because every time someone taps their card, it logs it. But I'm probably not going to change how many points things are going to cost for a while. I might a little bit define it, but not a lot.
Right.
So once something like this is set up, it's done. So I don't want people to shy away from something like this because it might be too much work. Like most things in business, you put a lot of work into it in the front end, and then it runs itself, and you make minor corrections along the way.
Right, and it's all about whether it's going to work for the type of industry that you're in.
Yeah.
So Marvin, what about you? I know you said you know some things about some loyalty programs. Do you do anything in your business, or have you ever done anything?
I don't do a loyalty program, and I don't do any sort of rewards that is a regular, service, but we do kind of an ad hoc rewards program. And it basically started out as, in the beginning, I wanted to be able to, send out thank yous to people that gave referrals, or if we got a big chunk of business from somebody, in a year, we'd give them, trinkets at the end of the year. But the problem is I didn't want to have to track it, but I didn't want it to be something where it was the same thing all the time. So we've kind of just randomized it so that depending on the client, if they have, been with us for a while, basically the loyalty that we give them is we don't raise their rates, we don't charge them for after hours surcharges, we don't charge them the advanced networking fee. So we have some clients that are still paying 2010 rates because they've been with me for so long and I see them all the time. Others, we will do things, we do the little things like if there's a birth in the family or something like that, we'll send out cards, gift baskets. But what I've actually found to be really good is we had a customer that referred us a ton of business, and I found out that they were golfing in the same tournament that I was in, so I prepaid his foursome fee for him, and he thought that was the best thing in the world.
Wow.
So
okay.
We've been doing that sort of thing. So I had another customer that was doing a reunion, and they were coming up short on tickets where people wanted to attend but couldn't. So we basically paid for a whole bunch of people to go at no charge. So we paid for that. We paid for drink tickets. We've done all those types of things. So it's kind of a customized program that, each customer, each person, we try to hit their nerve as to what they really want. But I have done things where, I mentioned the trinkets at the end of the year. We got to a point where every year we give out mugs. And I would used to give out mugs with a flash drive or mugs with an LED flashlight, something like that where, we wanted to establish something each year. And then one year we didn't give out coffee mugs. And I got so many people calling saying, "Where is my mug?"
No kidding.
And
they
I
love
was
those coffee
like,
mugs, huh?
it's just, and I mean, it's a $2 mug, but they loved it because what they started doing, they would collect them.
Sure.
They had them lined up on their windowsill in their office with each year that they got a mug. So we do that. I've got another customer where I give out little lanyard badge reels because they've got key cards for their office.
Right.
I'll walk through the office and people are like, I need a badge reel. I need a badge. I mean, little things like that. So, I mean, that's the closest I come to a rewards program. But if you keep doing it and, you do the unexpected, they're going to remember that. But,
Right.
You do the regular things, they will notice when you don't do them.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. Very cool. Is anybody else giving anything away? Anyone? One of the things that I was thinking, if you get your business cards printed, a lot of times on the back you can get, sections on there so that you could stamp them and, give a, 10% discount, 20% discount, or a free service of sorts. So I guess there are ways to simplify this and set it up. You don't need an extravagant way, like Chris said. You can do it very simply, and then once you have it set up in place, but I think it goes back to the question of, is it really worth it? Let's face it, the rates that a lot of us charge are not the highest rates. They're not the lowest, but they're not the highest. Is there a point, especially for residential computers, giving a rewards program to make it even cheaper than it already really is?
I think that depends on how you decide to set up your plans and if it brings in extra business. Anything that brings in extra business that doesn't lose you money is going to be a good thing.
Right.
But really good example. So we're doing $1 is 1 point, and for 100 points, someone can get a free Coke. So after spending $100 with me, they can get a free Coke. Nobody thinks of it that way. The customers don't think of it that way. I think of it that way. After someone spent $100 at this office, I can afford to give them a Coke.
Sure. Good point.
Right? The free service plan is 2,000 points. So after $2,000 spent in the store, they get 1 year of that free service plan. And what do you think is going to happen when that year's done? Because they're probably not going to have 2,000 points by the end of the year again.
Right.
So are they going to renew? Is that going to be more money? Are they going to keep coming back? That's what I want to test. That's what I want to find out.
Well, if they did spend $2,000 again at the next year, then sure, give them another free year of support.
Fine, take it. Really.
I was going to say now, how many residential customers are spending a couple grand a year though in a shop?
So I have gamers that come to me for custom built systems.
Okay.
They easily do that when they purchase a system from us.
But now you said when you were building systems before, you were already including that for 1 full year, weren't you?
I was.
Okay. Now
See?
it's based
now
on it's a rewards program, same thing, but
right.
Different.
So and we're setting up like a VIP program. So if someone has accumulated 500 points over the lifetime of their account, they don't pay the deposit anymore.
Okay.
Because if someone spent $500 in my shop, I trust them to pay their bill. Right. So it's little things like that, and I don't know how it's going to work out.
Right.
I'm very excited to be able to let you guys know in a couple months how it's been going.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let me ask this question, because here's the problem with marketing in general, or any of these things we do. Now everybody says, here, I can gauge this in 2 months. To which I say, baloney. Because I look at a lot of these things, and it's like a lot of these things are long tail. They're long term.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do them over at least a year's period of time, maybe with little tweaks and changes. But you've got to do that in order to really know, did you get your bang for the buck?
Yes, but I can tell you what my adoption rate will be in 2 months.
How many people? Now, so how are you giving it away?
Hey, okay, so you're giving me money right now? Hey, did you know that we have this loyalty program? Completely free. You can have a card or a key fob, and for every dollar that you spend, we give you a point, and we'll send you a text message when you have enough points to get free stuff.
Nice.
I mean, it's stupid straightforward.
Right.
And that's it. You tap the card, you put in their information, you hand them the card, they got it, they're done. And now they're getting text message alerts for different deals that we're running. Maybe we do a double points day because we had a slow week, so we'll do a double points day to bring people in. So
right.
I won't be able to really gauge whether or not something like that is going to bring in a lot of customers until I have a lot of customers to send that notification out to.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying give me a couple months, because after a couple months, I'll have a couple hundred people on it.
Gotcha.
And then I can send the message out to a couple hundred people saying, hey, we're having a virus removal week. If you bring your computer in during this week, you'll get double points for your virus removal. Reply yes to take it. I get a notification for everybody that replied yes to it, and then we see how many more virus removals we get during that week.
Nice. Okay. Very good. Any other ideas out there? Anything you guys, Brad, anything that's turned around in your wheelhouse?
No, I mean, I think absorbing all of this, Marvin and I kind of have a similar approach. We both kind of just get to know our clients and we give them something small
right.
or a nice little gesture depending on the size of the client and how long they've been with you and something that will mean something to them. I don't know that a loyalty program like what Chris is talking about. I like the way it works for like a shop. I don't know that it works for us exactly. I think we have to be, because we have these long relationships with just kind of like a handful of clients, that it's just got to be something that you just build a good relationship with them over time.
Right. So Paco, I think with that being said, and whoever else out there is listening, try things. A lot of this stuff, like even I was saying, you can do it for fairly cheap. You can get it put on the back of your business cards. Try the different programs. You can have a sheet of paper that you give to your customer that they bring it back and you stamp that sheet of paper or whatever. I think on the business card would probably be the easiest thing to do. And it's fairly inexpensive to have that added to the back of your business card that you're handing out to your customer anyway. So see if it works. See if people are coming in because of it. I don't really have anything that I look at these things and I go, okay. It's got my wheels turning, but I'm not sure what direction I want to use that in. But I know getting your face in front of the customer is the most important thing, no matter how you do that. And this is definitely one way that you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else to add, anybody, before I close this? Before I hit the gavel down and close it out? So, all right. So I was in iTunes today, which I don't like to be in a lot, but I was looking around, and so I've got a review, and this said, the most improved. It says, I've listened for several years, and I've got to say that Jeff and Chris and everyone else here makes the most enjoyable and informative podcast that I listen to. I could actually listen to this 24/7. My only regret is that I haven't taken the time to call in and participate. A gem of a show and truly valuable. And that is from Irod. Irod, thank you. Appreciate that. That is what continues to bring us back to give you the information. Hopefully you guys are getting something out of it, and it's well worthwhile. And to those that it's not your thing, it's not your thing. It's cool. But we definitely like to hear from the people that are getting something out of this, because even though I love talking to these guys, and I love to hear myself talk, there's still a million other things I could be doing right now. So we definitely do it for you guys. All right. So let's go into, now this is going to dovetail, loyalty program is going to kind of dovetail into the subject for today. One of the things I want to talk about was loss leaders in your business. And let me read you the definition of a loss leader, because somebody told me that they didn't know what it meant. So I figured I would bring the definition. It says a loss leader is a pricing strategy where a product is sold at a price below its market cost to stimulate other sales of more profitable goods or services. Something you give away cheaper to get people to come in your shop so that they will spend money long-term, over time, and make you more money that way. In other words, it's another way to get a person into your business. So who wants to go first? Chris, what types of loss leaders do you do in your business? I'll shoot it at you.
Knew you were going to pick me first. No. No, we don't use loss leaders. A place like a car shop uses oil changes as a loss leader. We don't really have anything like that, because unless I start charging an obscenely small amount of money for something that can be automated, there really isn't an easy way to make something a loss leader at a place like in our shop, because we don't carry USB keys. We don't carry, a lot of small items that you can give away or make really cheap. Yeah. I could almost see virus removals being something that you could do that with, but then, because let's face it, how many customers come in with a computer and say, I've got a virus, and it's something else. But at the same time, you're going to wind up with a lot of virus removals that you're going to do without making money on it. So
now let me ask you a question, though, because you actually, in your business, you actually do a loss leader, and I'm not sure you're even aware of it. You actually do it's not necessarily a loss leader, but it is a pricing strategy when you're doing a virus removal for somebody at X amount of dollars. For a little bit more, you can get them into your managed service. And you've been doing that for a long time, and you've been doing it very, very well for years. So, in effect, you're not getting paid for, because a lot of people have come to me and said, why don't you charge the full price for the virus removal and the full price for the managed service for the year? Of which I said, I kind of roll some things in there. I push it up a little bit so that that person will get locked into the program and see how good it is, and then over time, when they renew the next year, they're going to be paying the full amount.
I suppose I didn't look at it that way, because if someone signs up for the service plan today, they get unlimited virus removals immediately. So, rolling the virus removal into it just made sense. You're right, that is a loss leader, and you're absolutely right. I had not put it in that light. So that would be the example then. Thank you, Jeff.
That's what I'm here for. That's what I do. So now, Brad, what types of loss leaders do you use in your business, if any, or have you ever?
We don't really do that. I think we've done some discounting on like an onboarding with someone that's signed up on a monthly MSP kind of plan. So maybe like a kind of an upfront discount on something when they've subscribed to a service that's got a regular fee associated with it. Why, maybe I think a lot of people will do, like, we charge $100 or $500, whatever it is, to do a site survey, but we'll waive that fee if you sign on as a client, like maybe something like that. But as a loss leader, kind of by strict definition, we don't really do anything necessarily. We don't have like one service that's super cheap that we don't make any money on to try to roll more people through the doors.
Well, and I think that's where there's a misnomer. I don't think it's just about having the cheapest thing, and that's why I wanted to bring this subject today, because a lot of people look at it as they go, hey, I'm going to offer a $25 virus removal. In reality, I would say that all of us, and we'll get to you in a minute, Marvin, I would say that all of us have done some sort of loss leader in our businesses over the years and not realize what we're even doing, and we're bringing in clientele because of that. And it's actually helping our business. Now, whether you say, hey, it's out of the kindness of my heart or whatever, the reality is we're doing it to get that customer in. Once we've got them in, we've got them into different programs that they're going to pay for over time. And so from that standpoint, you're really not losing. Again, it's a long tail game. It's not a short-term game. So that's kind of what I'm looking at from there. So even giving discounts in like onboarding and stuff like that, that is in a sense a loss leader of sorts for your business. Now, let me ask you this. In that respect, though, do you let them know there's going to be a discount up front, or is this just something you tag on afterwards because they signed up anyways?
I mean, a lot of clients, if you tell them it's going to cost you $100 or $500 for us just to kind of look at things and decide whether or not we're going to let you pay us money to keep working for you, a lot of people will probably, I mean, especially since they deal with more of the smaller businesses, they'll be like, okay, well, we're not going to pay you $100 to like poke around and see if we want to use you as our tech guy.
Right.
So if we tell them that it's a thing that, there's a value to the time that we're spending, we're going to do this site survey, it costs $100, which is even underpriced for the amount of time that we're probably going to spend. But as you become a regular customer, we'll credit that back so that, in essence, that was free time. We do tell them that up front, so that they know. It helps do a lot of things, really. I mean, it's nice as kind of a loss leader. It also establishes a value for our time. We don't do things for free. I think Marvin even said something to the same effect last time I was on. But it's interesting. In the chat, John D said they looks like they take recycling drop-offs. He just said recycling, but I'm assuming he means like electronic recycling.
Right.
To get people to come in, and that's not a bad idea if you have a shop.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if you have a shop, and you want to recycle that stuff responsibly, that's a great way to get people to come in. Because a lot of people look at their stuff and they go, man, there are a lot of conscious people out there that look at their garbage cans and go, I really don't want to throw that in the garbage. It's going to end up in the landfill. Let me figure out a way to do that. So that's a great way. And I like that you actually will credit that money back to them when they come on board. So somebody has to be kind of semi-serious to be wanting to use your services to actually pay you the money, get that credited. So in essence, that's a great example of a loss leader. Marvin, what about you, man?
Well, since I don't really advertise or market or whatever, I don't do I'm a loss leader. But I guess in the sense of if you were to count discounting as a loss leader, I still don't even like doing that. The only time I give discounts is for clients that have been with us for a while, or sure, we're doing a project where, we're doing, X number of machines for an upgrade or something, and we'll discount, a couple of hours here because we're doing them, multiple machines at a time or something like that. So I've never liked the idea of that, and part of it was I didn't want people to see my business as one of those that was just out there to compete on price or to, get people in. We wanted to be more along the, the Vitamix or the Dyson type of deal where, this is what our service cost because it's good, and that's it. And if you are looking for value or you're looking for the cheapest price, then you're going to go somewhere else. So, but again, I haven't had to look at that. I mean, if I had a store, that would be completely different.
Okay.
But we don't. So all of our businesses, we're a service, so they, it's just like them calling another service out to their business. They hear the price. If they like it, they use us.
That's good. And I think you taught me something a long time ago, was that make sure that when you might have been Chris too. I know I've heard it from a couple different people, but make sure that when you are giving a discount, now it couldn't have been from Chris because he doesn't give discounts, but but when you're putting something on your invoice to send to a customer, make sure that you reflect that there's a discount in there. Put the full price on there, put the discount in there so they understand that, hey, next time you come, here's what the cost is. And I think that's where I've made a mistake a long time ago where I was charging super cheap for virus removals until I started figuring out that the virus removals were taking me the most time versus fixing anything else. And I'm like, but I was getting paid the least. And so what would happen is people would bring them to me, and then the next time they would come back, it could be a year and a half later, they would come back to me and they'd go, I charge them my normal rate, and you're like going, well, wait a minute, last time you only charged me, yeah. You got a good deal last time.
Yeah, I remember telling you that, Jeff. We did that for a couple of reasons. One, we did for the not-for-profit businesses that we did,
Yes.
to where we would show them this is our rate, but you as a not-for-profit, you're going to get discounted 30% or 50% or whatever it was, so they could see that on there. The other reason we started doing that is when customers would refer us business, if we had given them a discount, we didn't want them to quote the discounted price
Right.
to another business. So, they could say, oh yeah, well, he gave us a great deal, but he charges, this much, so I don't know if he's going to give you that same deal. So at least they know what that price is. So that was something we had been doing on our invoices for a while. And the only times it hasn't been that way is for customers that have been with us, the customers that are still paying the 2009 rate. I don't show them what the 2015 rate is.
Sticker shock.
But it would be something where, we've raised a couple of their prices, but we tell them, look, you've been a great customer for us, but, I can't afford to come out to your place for this much anymore, so we have to raise the rate. And they realize that. They know. Most of the good customers realize that, hey, you've been good to us over the years. Charge us what you think is fair.
That's good. Because I was going to say, so that's a great point, though. How do you take those customers and actually raise those prices without losing those customers? I think a lot of people are afraid to raise their prices because of the same thing. They're afraid that customer is going to go someplace else. But if you, like you said, if you have the relationship with them, they're not going to want to go someplace else because they know you, they trust you.
Right. Yeah, I've just done it where sometimes we tell them, sometimes we don't. Most customers realize that at the start of each new year, there may be a rate increase, cost of living. And they do it with their clients, they do it with their stuff, just like when they sit down to do a salary negotiation for an employee, that employee expects a raise every year. So that's what, the way we approach it. There's only been maybe a time or two where somebody realized that the rate had gone up and didn't realize it for some reason. They just kept paying the invoices without looking at them, and they were like, oh, well, wait a minute. When did you start charging us this? I don't know, last year. And I've only had one customer really have an issue with it, and I said, okay, see you later.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it, too. If they don't think that you're worth the rate that you are worth, then that customer's not really worth it.
How many times do you use your word worth in one sentence?
I don't know. I could throw it more if you want it.
No, you got a great point there. That's true. It's a lot of us will. I see a lot of people, and this kind of goes into a different subject, but a lot of people will take the abuse from their customers because they don't, for whatever reason, they don't think they can get more. There's always more customers out there. Always. There will be customers that will work well with you, and there will be customers that won't, and you can let them go by the wayside and work with somebody else. It's fine.
Yeah.
One of the things. Go ahead, Brad.
I was gonna say I've been scared to have that conversation with clients before, as far as changing rates, and it's always been it's actually been surprisingly positive pretty much every time. They're like, yeah, well, we've expected a price increase for a while. We're glad we want to keep you in business so you can keep supporting us, even though we don't like paying more money for things. We get it, and I've always walked out of there just like wring the sweat out of the shirt. Oh, that went really well. So it is. I mean, and if they had turned me down, I was willing to walk because it needed to happen. So,
that's a great point, though, Brad. That's a great point. You need to have that. You need to go in with that type of attitude. I'm willing. If they're not going to take my rate increase, that's fine. I'm willing to walk. I'm not going to sit there and go back on what I've already told myself I'm going to move these rates up to.
Yeah. So
good point. Marv?
Well, yeah, what I was going to say is I got that philosophy from attorneys who, happen to be a big chunk of my clients. And, attorneys never apologize for their rates. Right. They don't expect to negotiate their rates. This is the rate. You either pay it or you don't. And part of what I went through is I had one of my attorney clients who was not my client at the time was advising me about, you should charge what you think you're worth and just stick by it. And if they don't believe that, then they're not your client. And don't apologize for it. Don't negotiate it. And that's what we did. And it was, it was a huge evolution to be able to turn to an attorney and argue with them the same way they argued with me or with, opposing counsel or whatever, and just tell them, this is my rate, this is my value, and if you want to go get, a cheaper tech who's going to do less work, who's going to cut corners, or all of those things, then go right ahead. And most attorneys, or I should say most clients, if they really think that you're doing a good job, if you're treating them fair, if you're, not, screwing them over, they're going to be okay with that. Now, if you raise your rates $50 an hour, they might have to, go somewhere else and then come back if you can justify that $50 an hour increase. But you just gotta stick your guns. I forget what she told me. There was a couple things. It was really, it was a nice eye-opening experience because we went from talking about not just your hourly rate, but what do you do if you travel out of town and you do all these things. And she was at the point where, like, well, if you're out of town for 24 hours for that client, you bill them 24 hours.
Nice. Yeah, you're right.
I was like, I can't do that. And she goes, why? Why not? You're out of town for them. And as she said, as attorneys, they bill 24 hours when they go someplace.
Yep.
And they stay at the nicest hotels. They go, they don't cut back and eat at McDonald's just because they're out doing something for a client. They're, eating their regular stuff and they're billing for it. And she said, you need to do the same thing to them. Don't try to stay in the cheapest hotel because they want you to.
That's a good point.
You've got to be comfortable. You've got to eat, and you're not going to, be eating ramen noodles, in a hotel just because they don't want to pay. If they want your service and they value, your, what you bring to them, they will pay.
Very nice.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I will say that as we're coming down on time right now, if you guys want to either ask a question in the chat room, we're going to go into another subject here, or if you want to call in live, you can add your voice to the conversation. Feel free to do that. But I think we're going to talk about the Technical podcast from last week where Bryce talked about why use a business-to-business parts distributor. And this is something I have been struggling with. So, Chris, tell me why in the world I should use a business-to-business partner distribution center instead of Amazon or Newegg.
Well, I guess that would depend on what it is that you're looking for in your distribution. A lot of...
Computer parts, Chris. Computer parts.
Computer parts. Oh, okay. Thank you so much for narrowing that down for me. I was actually talking about the service that you get, not what.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were
is.
talking about what they do out in California.
I have no idea what people do in California. I'm up here in the cold.
Anyways.
No, well, let's face it. Like places like Amazon, yeah, they have good customer service, but it's not really geared towards businesses the way that a distribution channel would be. So really, what you want is a vendor that's going to understand how your business works. You want customer service and overall services to be geared towards that. You want to be able to get bulk deals if you wind up being able to make a large purchase. And really, you want to be able to properly warranty your products, right? Buying something off of Amazon, this doesn't happen very often, and Amazon is usually pretty good at standing behind things, but you could wind up very easily buying something that's already out of warranty off of Amazon without even knowing it until something's gone wrong.
Right.
Right? So, I don't like to use public distribution channels. I don't like my customers to know what price I'm paying for the parts that I'm putting in their computer. I also like the idea of white label drop ship. If you can find a distributor that will drop ship for you, Tech Data does it, where they will mail a part to your client for you so that you can meet them there and do the installation. So there's lots of smaller services that you can get out of it, and make the phone call. Ask them what it is that they do. Ask them how they can help you as a computer repair shop. And they will very happily outline everything that they will do for you because they're in competition with these services. And they're very good at pointing out the differences between the two.
All right, very good. Marvin, what do you have to say?
Well, I also use Tech Data, and I do it for a lot of the same reasons. I use the white label service where when my computers get shipped to the customer or my server stuff, it says MB Systems on it. It doesn't say where it comes from.
I got. Okay, so I guess I didn't quite understand that the way Chris said that. Now I get it. Okay, very good. Okay.
Okay. But this is going to be an issue for us because most of us are competing on price to some degree, and when I send out an estimate or a job quote to a customer and I just put on HP desktop model number and what the price is, I'm not giving them the specifics of what that model number is, but they always want to price shop. And they want to check and see, hey, can I get it on Amazon cheaper? Or can I get it, online cheaper? So, the podcast talks about all the other benefits that you can get. And the biggest thing is, warranty, because if you're getting true, and I'm going to use business products because most of the business products are going to get a 1-year warranty, if not longer, from not really the distributor, but from the vendor manufacturer. So if you order a desktop from Amazon, you really only get 30 days that you can get your money back from Amazon.
Right.
And so you've got to go through hoops to find who the manufacturer is or whatever. Whereas when I sell my customer something, they just call me, I take care of it because I can go back to the distributor or the manufacturer and get my warranty taken care of for that. But it is getting harder because a lot of times customers can get stuff cheaper than what I can get it from my distributor, and that may be with or without the discounts. It's a fun time.
Yeah, and I know that some people will actually not upsell the customer on their parts because they're paying for a service. So if they get a desktop, whatever they buy the desktop for from their distributor, that's what they charge their customer. And the customer pays their $150 hourly rate, and that's just what they've agreed upon. I've seen a lot of people do business that way, and it works well for them.
I certainly wouldn't do that. If you're getting stuff from a distributor, you should be getting a discounted rate than the retail price. And what I tell my customers is the price that I'm charging is the same price you can run down to the store and get it from.
Okay.
So if I'm making money on the back side, well, that's just a matter of my convenience for getting it for you.
Sure.
If you want to go get it yourself and pay the same rate, that's fine.
Right.
Use your time, and how much ever, whatever that value is for you to go get it, which would be the same as going down to the box store, to the office store, and buying it. Sometimes they'll be like, well, what, can you go get it for me? Sure, but you're going to pay my service time or my travel time to go get it and to bring it back. Whereas if you already bought it from me, well, you're not going to pay for that extra time because I've already got it either stocked in my storage or I'm going to have it shipped directly to you. I mean, there's all those added benefits where if you're getting from a distributor, that's how you can, give them the value, that they don't have to run out and get it themselves. They don't have to price shop. Yeah, they're not going to get that 2% discount.
Right.
But the convenience of knowing that it's going to come from a reputable place, because if they're getting it off of Amazon, a lot of times, yes, Amazon's good, but 70% of that stuff is not really coming from Amazon. It's coming from another, seller using Amazon.
Right, yes. Yep.
Or if they're selling off, eBay, who knows where it's coming from if you're getting it off of eBay.
Well, and that's part of the problem. I mean, a lot of people don't do the hardware support on laptops and stuff like that, so you're not going to get a lot of those parts, or maybe you will. I haven't seen any where I can get a motherboard for a laptop or different things like that or a front bezel or a lower half or whatever for a laptop. to be able to replace those parts. If those places had that stuff, man, I would be in, because here's the thing. I was looking through my emails earlier today as I was cleaning everything up, and I noticed I have a Tech Data account, and I can't remember the last time I've logged in. So now let me ask you this. Actually, Brad, go ahead and tell me what do you do, and then we'll kind of go into some of the pros and cons.
I guess I kind of echo what Chris and Marvin have said already, but we struggle with it all the time. Basically, when we have an account with Ingram Micro, I think we're going to be looking for someone that's actually, I'm going to check out Tech Data, and I've got another distributor we're going to look at. Ingram Micro is pretty big. They're focused on larger. We do mostly service business, so we don't have a large volume of parts flowing through. So we're a small fish to a distributor. But yeah, sometimes Amazon's faster, and pricing can be better. And we present like, hey, look, this is the exact same part over on Amazon for this price. Here it is at yours. And when we show the pricing to customers, sometimes they'll just go, well, we'll just pick it up ourselves and you can install it. And we want to discourage that too, because sometimes customers go out and they don't get the right thing. And
sure.
But the one thing that does keep us definitely locked into wanting to continue using distributors is that there's things you can't get on Amazon when you start getting into more advanced networking and larger scale projects. There's certain types of switches, and if you want to get a higher end NAS device in, a lot of those aren't even available on Amazon. You have to go through a distributor. We started using PepLink routers recently, and those have to be, actually you can get those on Amazon, but it's much better to buy it through the distributor. And you do get support. I mean, even Ingram Micro, when I was using them more frequently, you can call up and talk to a sales engineer, and they can help advise you, and they do have pretty good support in that sense, so that they can help guide you to the right products. And a lot of distributors do that. So there's value to it. We're not out, but it is a challenge with pricing and the availability, and Amazon getting bigger and better at doing everything that they do. It's hard sometimes to continue to use distributors, but.
So now, how many of these distributors do you guys use? Because I've got Cynics knocking on my door, and the other thing is too, is there a volume that I have to buy in order to get these deep discounts, or is it I can buy a hard drive one at a time and get it for a decent price, the same price I could get it anywhere else or whatever, and have it shipped? Because yeah, again, with Amazon Prime, most things I can actually buy on Amazon. I can pay an extra $3.99 and have it to my doorstep the very next day, sitting there waiting for me.
Right. Well, depending on what partner program you're with, there's really anywhere from 6 to 10 real distributors. Cynics, Ingram Micro, Tech Data, D&H, Arrow. There's all of those, and they all have their different volume levels as to what types of discounts you get, and stuff like that. I've been with Tech Data for 18 years now, and there are some really good discounts that we've got, not because of the volume, but because we've been with them for so long. And and a lot of it too depends on the partner programs with HP, Microsoft licensing, Lenovo desktops. We just recently, apparently HP just redid their partner program, so now if I buy 5 HP desktops, we get a huge discount. So I try to buy 5 every time now. And the difference is, I mean, we use them. I mean,
sure.
Our business customers, we're selling pretty much the same 2 desktops to all of our customers. So it makes sense for us to do that. For a lot of techs, it might not. But it depends on your partner level with each program. We've got the HP Partner Program, which recognizes all of our purchases through Tech Data. The Microsoft licensing for the volume licensing we get through there. But it really is a matter of volume. I remember when I first started, one of the things that we actually convinced HP to let us be a partner, but back then they were like, well, you got to buy $100,000 worth of stuff before you become a partner.
Wow.
And I said, well, how can I buy $100,000 worth of stuff if I can't buy the stuff?
Right.
And I don't remember exactly how, because I remember we had purchased like a bunch of desktops and printers, and they just kind of said, okay, well, we'll lump it in. And so that's how we got in to do that. But so there are some levels. I think that a lot of those programs have changed. A lot of the channel markets are trying to, make it, not just for every tech. I mean, you can't just call up and say, I'm a tech, give me an account, because you got to go through your, finance checks and business checks and all that stuff.
Well, what's funny is because, just being to a couple of conferences, I've got them constantly calling me, emailing me all the time, and I'm like, I'm such a small tech that I don't even know that it would be worth their time to pull me on board and get my products through there, dealing with mostly residentials. So that's always been my thing. The other thing is, too, I hate having so many different channels to go through.
Yeah.
Where am I going to look for this week? Oh, wait a minute. Let me check this website out, or let me check that website out, or it's getting harder and harder. I mean, it takes more time, I guess.
Well, I don't know what the other guys have done, but we pretty much put all our eggs in with Tech Data just because I just wanted to call one place.
Okay.
I do have a couple of other backup places that if for some reason my part's not at Tech Data, I can go to. They're not the typical places you're going to find just by searching the internet, but they're not actual distributors. They may be, you have local wholesalers that also will buy from the distributors. So I've got a couple of wholesalers that I have as part of my channel.
So now, Chris, for the residential side, what do you see the benefit for you? Because I know these guys are talking about when they're handling businesses, and yeah, they're ordering 5 computers at a time, setting them up in a shop, whatever. But any networking equipment. But for you, what does it benefit you?
Well, I mean, there are just flat out things that you can't go out and buy. Or can't go out and buy at that pricing. So Office 365 is a pretty good example. That $99 Office 365 license, I don't pay $99 for those. So I'm able to sell them at the same price and make my markup. If I want to refurbish a system, you have to purchase refurbisher licenses through a distributor. So Tech Data is able to provide that to us. So a lot of it really comes down to just gaining access to things that I normally just couldn't buy, or I couldn't buy at that pricing. That's the biggest part of it. I can also contact them if actually, here's a good example. So we bought an Office 365 license, and the way that works is Tech Data sends the information to Microsoft. Microsoft sends the customer the key. The customer activates the key.
Okay.
Or we do it for them when they comes in, or whatever.
Sure.
And we had a client that never received their key. So when they contacted us and said, hey, we never got the key, what's going on? We were able to call Tech Data. Tech Data went to Microsoft and had them send the key out.
Okay.
So they take care of the support on that side, where they guarantee what we've purchased is going to be delivered. So they're the ones who are going to do the legwork to make sure that happens.
Now, how is things like now Tech Data to me, D&H and all these companies, they seem like they're for more your hardware type stuff. I know they do software, but there's other companies out there that will do the Microsoft licensing for hosted Exchange and stuff like that. How is that different? And do you have to have a little bit of both?
Well,
or can you get everything straight through something like Tech Data and use that 100% in your business?
You can. You got to think too that there's a huge difference between just hosted Exchange and managed hosted Exchange. So what you're probably talking about is the difference between just buying the licenses from something like Tech Data and then having the customer just be set up with an Office 365 account and do everything directly with Microsoft, or if you were to go to a company like wow, I am gapping right now. I can't remember the name of the company, but they provide all of the support for the hosted Exchange. They create the accounts. They do everything.
Right.
So what you want to look at is what level of support you want to be involved in and what you want your vendor to do for you or your distributor to do for you. If you're comfortable with dealing with Microsoft yourself and dealing with the online exchange and making sure that everything's set up properly and being on the phone for hours, dealing with, hey, their email doesn't work, or do you want somebody else to handle that?
And that's part of the problem. We don't have a one-stop shop where we can get everything that we need that's going to work in our business 100%. And that's the frustrating part. It's like, yeah, if you could do all these things plus this, this, and this, I'm all on board. Even if it cost me more money, I wouldn't care. But the reality is, it really doesn't. So I'm still using several different vendors for trying to pull all this stuff together. So I guess it's just a different way of looking at it. And I'm just trying to see from a independent tech standpoint, is it actually worth it for me to take my time and effort and talk? You know, I understand from the support side, if you can talk to a sales rep and get support immediately, that's huge. Because if not, you're kind of on your own. And so from that standpoint, I can see having access to that stuff, and I guess that would be important for a lot of people. So, with that being said, all right, we have one more. I think we've kind of beat that one to death. I think we have one more thing that Brad actually brought to the show, and maybe somebody has an answer for this out there, I'm not sure, or somebody on the panel. Good imaging system that fits SMB or even home users, but more SMB. So are you talking about a mirror system or mirror image?
Well, like a Cronus True Image or
okay.
You know, I've played around with different ones, and you know, Cologne Zill is actually still one of my favorites, but it has to be offline. And what I'm looking for right now is an easier way. This is kind of coming off of that QNAP server that went down. If I'd like to have something running on a network that can take an image or a snapshot of a computer while it's running, and do that sort of on a schedule, have it be something that can be done completely remote and recovered from remotely. I know there's a lot of options out there. I just haven't really got one up and running, and I'd like to see if anyone had any good experience with a system like a Cronus, or I think Macrium's one, and or if there's like a good open source one that somebody's been using. But the key that I'm looking for is something that can run remotely while a system is live.
So Cronus does run live.
Mm-hmm.
Now the price is a little bit, I mean, it's a little pricey.
Yeah.
For some people. I will tell you the Carbonite service had just bought their mirror image company, whatever it is, Bit something or other, and hopefully we're going to get better mirror imaging. Right now, the packages I sell to my residential customers is I sell them a Carbonite middle-of-the-road package, which is $99 a year, gives them the unlimited cloud backup, and it gives them a mirror image with a plugged-in external drive. So I don't even mess with it. I just send them to Amazon and go, hey, get this Western Digital external drive for $59, plug it in, and I'll make sure that everything's running. So they have a daily mirror image of their system, a snapshot every single day, and it's automatic. And in my opinion, those are the only. Every other system that I've seen that you basically have to build a script and run it in some form or fashion. 99.9% of the time, those scripts will end up breaking and not working. So, with that being said, I'm hoping that for the pro side of Carbonite, that they're going to bring in more of the features of the company they just bought, and we will start seeing mirror images to whether it be an internal drive, an external drive, a network drive, something like that where it's throwing the image to. And hopefully we're going to see that here in the short future. But that's the only. Right now I'm using a Cronus because it just does it automatically on my own system, and I just use it on an internal drive. And then what I'll do is I will copy that drive to an external drive every few weeks, just so I have, you know, some regular backup. So that's what I use. What about Chris, Marvin? Imaging? You guys image at all? Probably not Chris.
Well, that's not fair. I mean, at SOS. Okay, so I think I told you about this. I can't remember if I mentioned it on the show. I've got a client who has a server, and 2 out of the 3 drives in the RAID went out.
Yes, I remember we were talking. Yes.
Yeah. So one service that we're looking at is actually through Infoscale, because I'm already a distributor for them.
Okay.
And they have a hardware device that you can place on premise, and it can either do file backup or full image backup from workstations and servers. And if you need to, you can spin the server up live from the box while you get the server repaired. And it's got the cloud hybrid to it, so you can also upload files onto the cloud from there if you needed an offsite backup as well. So that is a little bit more on the expensive side, though, so it doesn't sound like that's quite what you're looking for, but it's an option.
And that's the problem. And I already know which one Marvin's going to go with, but there's several types like this out there. So go ahead, Marvin. What are you pushing now?
Well, I have. What am I pushing? I'm not making any money off this. If I was, I'd definitely. Well, I've looked at Infrascale and I've looked at Datto, and that's probably what everybody knows that I've talked about recently, and they're pretty much the same. But Brad, I don't know if this is going to work for the residential side, but for the small business side, Datto, I'm not going to say it. I'm loving it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had any major issues, so that may or may not change. But there is a price point where it does work, where you can do, if you've got a really, really small server or small data set, that you can do a image backup for, $100 a month for a small business, and that works out just well. And like Chris said, it is a hybrid, so you've got a local backup that you can do that also will go to the cloud, and it's completely automated, and you just basically look at it from a web portal. It can send you email alerts, giving you a successful backup, unsuccessful backup. I've got it to where not only does it send me those emails, but it actually sends me a picture for the systems that I have that are doing an image backup, where it'll spin itself up as a test every night and give me a picture of the login screen so that I know that, yes, it'll spin up and it'll work.
Nice.
If I need to recover that
really
image.
Nice.
So that is that. Actually, I don't know if you got one here.
Okay. So I think the biggest problem, though, for a lot of small businesses is cost. So we've been talking to some of the Carbonite reps, and for their middle tier plan, their Pro plan, which a lot of companies are using for backing up a server, a few workstations, you're talking $300 a year versus a lot of these other ones, you're talking $800 to $1,000 a year. It's going to give them a better option that way, but I don't think people see it that way. They don't want to pay that type of money.
And a lot of them won't, and that's kind of the challenge that we face as technicians, to educate our clients and explain the differences. So like something that Marvin and I are talking about, that live spin, that is huge.
Right.
If you can go to a client and say, well, yeah, you could back everything up to Carbonite, and then we could get a new server in here, and then we could download your backup, or you can order the hard drive from them, and you'll be up and running in a few days. Or you can do this, and we can spin your server up for you, and you'll be up and running in 15 minutes. Then we repair the server or replace the server, get everything over from the live backup into the new server, and you experience very little downtime.
Right.
So it's up to us to educate our clients and to really sit down and ask them how much money you're going to lose if your server is down for 3 days.
Well, here's the misnomer, though. A lot of people will say that, and here's what I say. A lot of small businesses, even though they cry about being down, it depends on the business. Because there's a lot of businesses out there that, yes, they cry about being down, but it doesn't really impact their business. No, the reality is a lot of them can actually go back to pencil and paper and run their business just perfectly fine for a week, 2 weeks, whatever they got to do. Then they'll go back and input the information later. But to them, it is a big thing. So you can tell them that, but a lot of them, it doesn't matter because they don't see it as a benefit. Even though it is a benefit, they don't see the cost as a benefit, I guess.
And that's, yeah. And you're not going to really be able to 100% get away from it, and it's going to depend on the salesperson. I can generally overcome that because I've learned how to speak to my clients, and I've learned really who needs it and who doesn't. This particular client, when their server went down, they were done.
Right.
Like it's not just, oh, we're down. No, their entire business completely shuts down until that server's back up and running, because all of their production software requires a server. There's no way around it. So that's it. I mean, going to them and saying, well, yeah, you had a backup and we had you up and running. It took a day and a half.
Right.
That's how long they were down for. So they lost a day and a half over the revenue. And that's the question. So how much money did you lose over that day and a half? Okay, and here's how much this solution costs. Okay, so it's been 2 years since the last time you've gone down this hard. So let's ask this question. Over the 2 years, would you have saved money doing this? Would you have saved the reputation? Is this something that would have benefited you? And if you present it properly, and that server really is an essential thing for their business, they should be giving you that answer themselves, which would be yes. So it's all in the presentation. It's all in what you tell them and how you give it to them. But it really, you're right. It comes down to whether or not that server is actually important in their business, or if they're just complaining because they want you to fix it faster.
Well, and don't get me wrong. I mean, if you go without a day without doing your accounting, in a lot of businesses, it's bad, but it's not horrific. It's
unless you're an accountant.
Doable. Well, even that. I mean, even then, you can get that stuff back up and running, and they'll still be okay. Yes, they'll have to do some manual work, but it's not that big a deal. Now, if you're running a piece of software that's doing engraving or whatever, and you've got to have these databases where you've got files and CAD programs and all that, yeah, that's different. That's understandable. But quite honestly, those companies should be making so much money that it's not even an issue to spend $1,000 to $2,000 a year to protect their systems. But why is it there's a lot of companies out there that are making a ton of money that still don't want to spend that money?
Well, because they want to protect their bottom lines. They want their profits to go up, and so they're going to cut back on costs, regardless of the impact that cost cutting does. And I'm not going to mention any major car manufacturers, but I have mentioned in the past that I've worked for one, and I watched that happen firsthand, where we'd have these huge expenditure cutbacks that made absolutely no sense to anybody except for the people who are writing down the numbers. Right? And what argument are you going to make? Well, if you cut back on this money, you're rolling the dice, because if this happens, it's going to cost us this much money to fix it. And they'll roll that dice. Right, because we're just employees. We're just contractors. We're not, we're nothing important to corporations.
Right.
So no, you're right. You're not going to be able to make that argument to a corporation. They're just going to do what they're going to do. It's the small and medium-sized businesses that rely on us for our information, for our input. Those are the companies that's going to make a big deal too. And what we need to do as IT administrators, as their go-to guy for their tech, or go-to gal for their tech, we need to put ourselves in the position where that client trusts our judgment. And when you get to that point, it's not going to be hard to sell them on a proper backup, especially if they've had a disaster happen already and they've seen the impact firsthand of what can happen when they don't.
Does anybody else have any stories of people they have seen the destruction and basically still said, "Nah, we still don't want that"? Any final thoughts from anybody on this subject?
Well, I will say there is a price point that companies will look at, not just for disaster, but let's just say they need a version of a file X number of months ago. And a lot of the lower cost image systems, you just can't pull a single file out of that image. So the amount of time it takes to do that, whereas with, Datto, Infrascale, some of the others, for my law firm, and I'll throw this number out there, I've got a law firm that is spending $700 per month per location for the backup solution that is doing a snapshot twice a day of their files and is imaging 6 servers as part of that device. So they've got a full image of the server, so if a server does crash and I got to bring a new one in, basically I can restore that to, a new server with a bare metal restore.
Right.
Now, the one they got $700 a month might sound like a lot, but that one does not spin up a true virtual image so that they can keep working. So they decided against that. But what it does do is it gives them 1 year of cloud retention. So every file they have, we can retrieve it from the cloud for a year. And their backup storage is not limited by size.
Okay.
So that was a huge thing for them because we went through a process where they didn't have a crash, they didn't have an emergency, where something went down. They had a pleading for a case that they didn't realize had been missing for 6 months.
Oh.
And that was they're like, how can we make sure we have stuff for 6 months? And we talked about getting external hard drives and copying them and keeping them in archive. And I said, okay, who's going to do that? Who are you going to pay to do that? You're going to pay me every month to come on and do that, or can we do this solution that does it every single day, twice a day? It'll send us an email showing us that it's done, and it's just taken care of.
Right.
So that's what it came out to for that particular client.
Very good. Well, again, I think we've kind of covered this, and hopefully, Brad, that will give you some more things to take a look at for your business and see what's going to work best for you. And I think it's going to be different for every customer.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, we didn't talk about like some magical free thing that does what we wanted to do, but what I like about something like the Datto and the Infrascale is that more and more things that we're choosing to work with in our ideal situation are things that we can monitor, things that tell us what's going on, things that kind of automatically manage things and do it better than just kind of home written scripts and things like that. Like, these are actual solutions that handle this stuff in a really good way when you're trying to make sure that everything's always working, and you start having all of these different things going on all over the place, and these are coming back and saying, hey, we're fine, or hey, you need to pay attention to this, come over here. So RMM tools, this like a Datto style backup, those are all things that we are trying to find ways to fit into our our offerings to customers that are on a budget and not necessarily we're sort of like shoehorning our way into getting them to pay monthly for stuff that they need, because when they were down for 2 days.
Right.
I'm going to go to them and ask them, hey, how much were you paying your employees for those 2 days where you're probably only getting 50% of their usefulness or productivity out of them because this aspect of their job was they just couldn't do it. So
it's a good point. Definitely, and if you guys out there have any solutions that have worked for you in your business, definitely let us know. Send an email in. And with that being said, Marvin, where can people find you at, man?
maninthevan.net.
Oh, there he is. Oh, you changed your lower third. You got to change it back. Yeah, go to maninthevan.net. You can get everything from Marvin there, contact information and all that stuff. Send him a smiley face and an email and say, hey, thanks for what you do. And Brad, where can people find what you're up to?
You can go to my website, ttcscomputerservices.com. You can email me, Brad, at ttcscomputerservices.com. I'm starting to try to use Google Plus a little bit more as Brad at TTCS, but I don't know how long I'll be able to keep that up. I haven't been very good at getting a rhythm with social media. So, but yeah, anyone wants to shoot me a contact or whatever, I'm available.
Always got good information bringing to the show. Appreciate it. And Mr. Chris Carruthers, where can people find what you're up to?
Well, generally you can find what I'm up to by asking. But if you want to take a look at it yourself, you can either give us a call at 866-568-2813. You can email us at info@rstechteam.com, or you can sign up for our newsletter so we can send you alerts and you don't have to ask.
There you go. Get the information in your inbox. All right. Reminder, Jetpack Live is Monday, November 2nd, which is tomorrow if you're watching this show live right now at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Learn real ways to grow your IT business. You can check it out over at itjetpack.com. For those that have been looking for the RSS feeds, We are in iTunes now. All 7 episodes are up, so you can actually download them to your favorite podcatcher, get them on your MP3 player, however you want to do it, and get that information. Come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/live. Join in on the conversation by calling in live and hanging out in the chat room. We had a great chat room, a lot of engagement today. We also have audio available over at podnutz.com or subscribe using your favorite podcatcher. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Computer Repair Podcast. You can email questions and feedback to this show to podnutz@podnutz.com. If you guys got any feedback, information, things you want talked about in the show, please feel free to email us, and we will talk about those things on the show. You can also leave us a real live voicemail at 1-888-697-0162. I will say this: if you leave a voicemail and you want somebody to get back to you, please leave some information so that people can get back to you in an email format or something along those lines. You guys can also support this show by going to patreon.com/Computer Repair Podcast. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast. Oh, my. Great show, gentlemen. Appreciate it as usual.
Right on.
Yeah, I saw they were talking about. So I have the Carbonite package that they'll actually courier my information to me if I want.
Yeah, that.
So I can't remember which Pro pack. I'm sure one of the Pro packages does it. What I'm hoping though is they really come up with a mirror solution, because I'll tell you, for the residential customers, it works beautifully. They plug in that little Western Digital drive. Usually it's a 1 terabyte because they're so cheap. Boom, makes their mirror image. They've got that, and then they've got their unlimited cloud backup. Done. So if we ever have a problem, you just pull it and, pop a new drive in, get your image over.
The question is, though, have you actually done a restore from it?
So most of the time it works. Now, I will tell you that John Dubinsky did have a problem here as of late with one mirror image. Now, he was doing one for the, what was it? I think it was a business client, and I think it was on a set of Optiplex desktops. So he had one that he had a hard time. They had a failing drive, and I think sometimes there is corruption that can happen. So again, this is where I say a lot of people, cloud, you can't just go cloud, you can't just go local, and you can't just keep what's on your machine. You got to have all three. If you've got all three, then hopefully at some point you can get all the information back. The mirror image does make it easier to restore, but even if that fails out, you've got the cloud or vice versa. I think... I don't know. It's one of those things. I do like how they've done it. Basically, if you go look on a Western Digital drive after Carbonite has made a mirror image, you can't see. You see a little file on there. You can't see any other. You can't see your data.
Right. Yeah.
You can see that it's taken up, but yeah. So it protects it from people deleting it, so on and so forth. That type of thing. So from that standpoint, it seems pretty good. And I think if your system's up and running, I think it's a non-issue. But the problem is once you start to have a drive corruption and different things like that. And again, I'm only selling this on managed service customers. So if I'm looking at their equipment, how it's working on a day-to-day basis, then that's what works for me. I wouldn't sell that. I would just sell somebody the basic plan for $59 a year if they just want to do the cloud backup.
Right.
So. Chris, you got to take off?
Yeah, I gotta get going.
Go home and get some dinner, man.
I'll try. I'm starving. See you later, guys.
Have a good one, bud.
See you later.
See ya. Oh.
Well, one of the other reasons that I went with the Datto is even though the images are in a format that somebody just can't browse into the Datto box and grab the backups, when doing a restore, you can actually mount the image as a share and go in and pull whatever files you need. And that's what sold me for this customer to do that.
And that's a great point, because that's the only thing I have to have a mirror. If I'm going to have a mirror image, which I do, on my operating system drive and my data drive. I've got to be able to go into the structure and actually pull single files out if I need them. So that's very important for me to have, because I don't want to sit there and have to, oh, I got to mount it and this and that. Now, Acronis has to be on your system in order to do that. It is their own proprietary software, but
I've had so many I haven't used Acronis a lot, but I would say by a percentage, more than half of the time that I've tried to use Acronis, the image was ultimately corrupted by the time I came around to trying to use it.
ooh, don't tell me that, man. Don't tell me that.
Well, it was an older version. Maybe the newer version's better.
I don't know. Everybody said they hated 2015, which is what I'm on. I probably should upgrade to 2016. But to be honest with you, on my Windows 8 system, it worked perfectly. And I actually did restore both my data, because my data drive died, and my operating system drive, because somehow when my data drive died, it had trouble communicating and it corrupted my OS. I have no idea how that happened, but whatever. One of those things. It's a beautiful image behind me. I can't believe my son was playing behind me the whole time.
Yeah, he was. He got some heads up in the chat too. People were like, "Oh, look at him go!"
Very cool. All right. Well, I got to take off and get probably something to eat and do all the podcasts and everything.
Yeah, right on.
My Sunday night. I still got to do work, man.
I shot you over a couple of batch files that I use. Since SSDs and hard drive pairings are becoming pretty much the standard.
Okay.
It generates a bunch of folders to become your new target on your data drive for your user folders.
Oh, nice.
Documents folder, and then the second one does the registry entries to change those pointers in Windows. So you just run these two scripts side by side, and there's like a couple of the user folders that have weird registry keys. I haven't figured out how to automate those, but it handles most of it for you. So your documents, music, and like important stuff like that will automatically be handled. So
so what I did this time, since we're on the subject and talking about it, what I did was I moved, instead of what I did in the beginning, as I used the user profile, and I pointed the user profile, which took most of it over there. But then in doing that, everything still got convoluted, and I still had to dig down so far to get to stuff. So what I did was I actually just took documents, pictures, videos, pointed, I right-clicked on them, went to properties, pointed those to the secondary drive. Things that I wanted to were like, I think you can point one drive over there. I didn't, though, because I wanted the access on the SSD. And in Google Drive, you can't point anywhere else, and that goes right in your user profile.
You can tell Google Drive what folder to use.
If you can tell me how to do that, that'd be great, because I could not figure it out.
You know what I use instead of the Google Drive? I don't even use Google Drive's little client. I use a program called InSync, because I use Google Drive Personal and Google Drive Business. And I have two separate accounts, two separate folders, and it manages both of them, and it is way better than Google Drive. I haven't had an issue with it in a year.
Well, here's the thing. So I just noticed this when I was shutting my Dropbox off, is that Dropbox actually has an integration now to work on the Android platform. I mean, they've always had but as far as getting this stuff like my Google Drive, so I can use it with my Google Drive service and have everything sync through there. So I was thinking about it, and the only reason I use my Google Drive is to get stuff to my Android phone. The rest of the stuff I don't care. That's all I use it for. Oh, no, that's not true. I share it to a couple of different people that use Google Drive on a regular basis. It's what they use, so I share that. I use OneDrive for a lot of my tools and different things that I share amongst my different bench computers and stuff inside the office here. Same thing. If I'm out of my phone, I can get to any of these tech tools or whatever and use them. So.
Right.
There's no, man. I'm telling you, if somebody comes up with a one kills them all, I'll be in. But I have not found it yet.
No.
It's too hard to maintain all this stuff. I just want to quit sometimes. It's no fun. All right, gentlemen. Well, you guys have a great rest of your evening, and I will talk to you guys soon. And Brad, whenever you got some time available, let me know and come on the show, and we'll put you on a calendar.
Yeah, let's set it up soon. I want to do a daily.
Okay, great. Just send me an
I'll shoot
email and
you
we'll
an
get
email.
you signed up.
Right on. Have a good
Appreciate
one.
everyone out there, and everyone have a great week. We'll see you next week.